Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much, President. Mexico supports the convening of this meeting, this emergency meeting. I thank the Secretary General for his report on the most recent events in Afghanistan. I also wish to thank the delegations present here today, as well as acknowledging the presence of the permanent representative of Afghanistan. During recent weeks, particularly this last weekend, the conflict in Afghanistan has entered a more destructive, deadly phase. The advance of the Taliban on the main urban centers and now on Kabul drastically changed the dynamics of power, and it has had an extremely concerning humanitarian impact. The military offensive makes it clear that a ceasefire has not yet been negotiated, and the figures of victims of the conflict are the highest recorded. Mexico rejects the use of force and of violence. We stress emphatically that the institutional framework of the country must be respected. A process of national reconciliation must be sought. Afghanistan's future must be democratically decided upon by all Afghans. Mexico also unequivocally deplores the deliberate attacks on the civilian population. The reports of summary executions, deliberate attacks on women, beatings, restrictions, and the censure of means of communication are all alarm signs for the international community. The highest price of the political and military entrenchment in Afghanistan is being paid for by the most vulnerable. The catastrophic trajectory of violence affects a population which finds itself in increasingly precarious conditions, with very few options, particularly for women and girls. Humanitarian personnel, doctors, interpreters, and other international service providers are also especially vulnerable at this moment. A sign of this is the massive wave of displacements we have noted and the desperate efforts of civilians to flee the country. Mr. President, the military campaign has led to a drastic change of control over the territory and material resources. My country, Mexico, urgently calls for the international community to seriously evaluate the transfers of weapons, which might be diverted or end up in the wrong hands. As long as the proliferation of weaponry goes on, the Taliban and other groups will have the means to reach their ends through force. This is why we urge that irresponsible transfers not be approved and that the highest international standards be applied to contain the catastrophic impact of the situation Afghanistan is going through. Despite the agreements signed and the existence of a robust framework of international law fighting terrorism, we are also concerned that the door is opened for Afghanistan to once again become a safe haven for terrorists. Any scenario for Afghanistan's future must ensure that this does not happen. Mr. President, the international community, particularly the Security Council, must present a common front to show that the use of force is unacceptable and that the agreed commitments must be respected and that dialogue and political negotiation are given prime place. We also call on those who have direct contacts with the Taliban to roundly condemn attacks on civilians, particularly women, girls, and minorities, and we call for a resumption of constructive negotiations as quickly as possible. Thank you.